Today on Rambling About Cars, it's a new century. No, it's the 21st century, but there is a new Toyota Century SUV. The first time ever. We got to talk all about that. And there's also a little show going on right now in Germany. I don't know if you've heard about it, but Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen, all kinds of concepts to talk about from there. So let's roll, my friends. It's podcast time. I am Christopher Smith and Mr. Chris Bruce across the way. How's your week been going, man?
It's been going good. It's Wednesday, but it doesn't feel like it should be Wednesday. It feels like it should be honestly Monday or Tuesday. This week's going weirdly quick for me.
Well, I mean, it should feel like Tuesday because we were off. Those of us in the United States off for Labor Day on Monday.
That's probably why.
So yesterday was our first day back from the long weekend, and I'll tell you, last week, do you remember we were talking about setting up the podcast, and in the morning you were like, yeah, it's kind of a slow news day, and then it exploded.
It did.
This week has been a little quieter today. And
but I mean, we're still getting a lot of stuff from Munich trickling in. So
we have stuff coming
maybe
in from
today
Munich.
Has been slow, but Monday especially, our boys in Europe, Adrian, Angel, Julian, we have a pretty tight European contingent. Those guys worked their butts off on Monday.
They did. And I mean, it shows up today. I mean, they handled a lot of the stuff that cropped up while we were out. They handled Toyota Century that we're going to talk about here. Well, actually right off the bat. And also a heads up to everybody listening. We're getting previews for the Detroit Auto Show. We're starting to get stuff trickled in on our end. And that show is going to be going on next week. And Bruce, I apologize that we didn't have a chance to talk about it yet. We'll have to see, everybody. There is a chance that we might do something special next week for the podcast in relation to some vehicle debuts, live streaming, but we don't yet know exactly what's live streaming. So we're going to find that out later this week, and we'll keep everybody in the loop on that.
I see what you're saying.
We'll keep everybody in the loop on that because we've been talking for a year and a half about doing a live podcast, a live rambling podcast leading into a new vehicle debut where we're giving some commentary. So we're sort of the pregame show, right?
Sure.
We know there are some things happening next week with Detroit, but we don't have specifics yet on exactly when or what kind of live stream might be available. So stay tuned. Whether you're on Motor One Com on YouTube, Motor One Com, Facebook. No, that's Motor One on YouTube, Motor One Com on Facebook.
Motor One on YouTube, Motor One Com everywhere else.
Everywhere else, including Twitter, which is now X, but it's always going to be Twitter. And of course, our audio listeners on Spotify, on Deezer. I was listening to Deezer a little bit over the weekend.
You're lying to me. You are lying to me.
It's okay. But it's a place that you can catch us. Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Apple,
Amazon,
Google,
whatever the Google thing is.
Send us email, podcast@motor1.com. Comment on the things as you see them. Like and follow and subscribe and all the good stuff on YouTube so we can keep doing this. We got Group FBC. We got Ted Adam Green in the house. My Life is Legendary. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. We got quite a bit to talk about. What do you say we get this show on the road, folks?
Absolutely. I was but real quick, I was just also comment and email us. We love getting emails. We haven't gotten emails of about 2 weeks, I think was our last email. So we love getting those. We love getting comments, but we also love getting comments live from the folks who are watching live. So it's all good either way.
Send us your stuff, and perhaps you want to send us an email on the Toyota Century that we're going to talk about here first. This just debuted hours ago. This is still pretty fresh news to us. We knew that it was coming. We knew the date. We didn't have all the information. Well, guess what, folks? Now we do. And yes, the Century, the long time running in Japan, ultra luxury sedan is now an SUV. It's not just an SUV though. You can still get the sedan, at least for now. I don't think it's been made clear yet whether it's going to all transition to just the SUV or not. But for right now, the sedan version is still available.
It's
you
kind
want
of
to
an
know
SUV in quotes, though. When you look at this, like you can tell by the ride height and stuff. Like this is not an SUV that you take to Moab or you take off-roading. This is
well,
pretty
of course,
road
it's
focused SUV.
it's Japan's Rolls-Royce Cullinan is what it is. I mean, Century, it's the ultra luxury Toyota vehicle. It doesn't even wear Toyota badging. It has its own Century badging.
Right.
But underneath it is the TNGA platform. It's got the 3.5 liter V6 hybrid system
Hybrid.
with an electric motor.
Yep.
So that's 406 horsepower. And if that all sounds a little familiar, TNGA, the hybrid powertrain, 406 horsepower, it's the same thing you get with the Lexus TX 550H. So obviously, I mean, we're still talking Toyota here. There's still some commonality,
But with
but
a
from
far nicer interior than you would ever get in basically
from
any other
there,
Toyota vehicle that exists. Like
yes,
the Century, like you were saying, it's essentially as close to Toyota. You would compare it against a Rolls Royce.
yeah,
That's where it's supposed
legit.
to be. It is the most luxurious Toyota vehicle that they make. And I don't mean to say that like, oh, it's the most luxurious Toyota. It's nicer than a Camry. No.
Yeah,
This
this is
is
completely
world-class luxury, period.
for the Japanese market. I mean, it's worth mentioning there too. This stays local. This doesn't go. Certainly doesn't come to North America. If it did, this would cost about 170,000 because it is listed as costing 25 million yen.
Yep.
Presently, that translates to about 170,000. These are always the Century is always extremely low production. Toyota is set up to build approximately 30 per month. And what do you get for 25 million yen, you ask? Well, we talked about the powertrain. This isn't a performance vehicle by any stretch. This is designed to
No.
just be very, very cushy. It's large, but it's just a 4-seater, 2 seats in the front, 2 seats in the back. That way you can have the rear seats that have the full stretch out recline treatment. What I think is neat, there is the cargo area back there, but it's separated. It's divided from the passenger compartment. Toyota says that's done to just make things nice and serene inside, so you don't hear any of the stuff rattling around behind you in the cargo bay.
Which the Cullinan also does, if I'm not mistaken. And also the thing that I think was cool, which is I thought you were about to mention, is that the rear doors slide open like a minivan, which means
On the GR,
that,
on the GR version, right?
yes,
Because
still,
they're
you can,
yeah.
but still, like, so that means you don't have to, oh, I parked in a parking lot. I'm a really rich Japanese guy. I can't get in. Oh, no. The door slides open and I can get in and there's no issues whatsoever.
And when that door slides open, there are electronic steps that rise up to help
Yes.
you ease your way in and out. And that's on the GR version. And I want to stress again, we're saying GR version, but this isn't a performance vehicle. The GR, it's just, it's giving you a little bit more, I think, of a sporty flair. But the powertrains are all the same there. If you don't get that, the rear doors open to a 75-degree angle. So provided you have the space, there's no trying to wiggle your way in and outside the back seat of this. Obviously, it's designed for the person or persons who wish to be chauffeured in true ultimate luxury.
Right.
Bruce, did you notice this in the announcement? I really want to know more about this feature. It's Toyota's calling it rear comfort mode.
I saw that rear comfort mode.
It distributes driving and braking forces to not disturb the rear occupants. I want to know what kind of magic is going on here that allows the front seat passengers to feel completely different set of physics from the rear. I mean, am I being a little facetious here? Am I misinterpreting that? I mean, are we talking about some marketing?
But you could imagine that if it knows that there's a person in the back, that it might adjust. Keep in mind, I mean, this is something you and I have talked about before. Japan, amongst like kind of the major automaking countries, has the lowest speed limits. Like, speed limits in Japan, if I'm not mistaken, are right around 60 miles per hour on most of their roads, which are, in the US, like even here in Ohio, 70 miles per hour is pretty much the norm on highways, stuff like that. Like Japan, they don't drive that quickly legally. So you could imagine a setup where you try to prioritize the comfort of anyone back there. So maybe you tweak the brake bias so that it's more biased for the front passenger so that they feel that more. Or again, the suspension settings or things like that, you basically try to make it so the chauffeur has to undergo a lot of those forces, whereas the person in the back gets to serenely ride along.
But Bruce, the chauffeur is like a foot and a half in front.
You're not wrong.
Physics aren't going to be any different. I mean, I find it interesting that they call it rear comfort mode as opposed to comfort mode. And that's why I bring it up. I would love to hear a better explanation from Toyota on how their systems work to lessen the effects of physics for the rear seat passengers.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a fair point.
Without necessarily, I mean, they suggest that this is done for the rear seat people in the back versus people just in the whole thing, right? So it's just
real quick. I love this photo right here. Oh, here, I gotta go back one. This like full lay flat seat in the back where you can, like, it's essentially a bed borderline.
Yeah,
and that's full, like, it's got even like thigh support. Like, you can be a pretty comfy person in this thing if you want to be.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yeah, I mean, we talked about the sliding doors, the powertrain. It's interesting to me. This is shorter than the Century sedan. You wouldn't just judging by the looks, you wouldn't think that was the case. But this is actually a little bit shorter, but it is a little bit wider. Toyota says they do some tweaks to the bones, to the underpinnings for a little bit better rigidity, just to give you a little bit more, presumably, control over those dynamic forces affecting the backseat passengers only.
Well, I suspect that the length difference, I bet, and I don't know this, maybe I'm talking out of my butt here, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I bet it's a lot of the overhang stuff where a rear passenger doesn't necessarily feel it, but the trunk might be a bit longer on the sedan, but because you have a hatchback on the SUV here, it kind of makes up that difference because maybe it's not as long, but it's taller, and so it kind of splits the difference. That's my guess. I don't know, but that would make sense to me.
And I mean, of course, I mean it's got screens everywhere inside. It has just gorgeous lighting inside. It's the Japanese market Rolls-Royce, built by Toyota. We know that I believe it's going on sale later this year for 2024, or did we not get it? It's definitely going to be out for 2024. I don't know if Toyota gave us an exact production date on this or not, but we know we've seen it coming for a while. Toyota hasn't been shy about talking about it. I think we first heard that there was going to be a Century SUV a year and a half ago, something like that. I'm thinking.
Smith, I just put this in our private chat. My headphones just died for reasons I'm not sure of. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, Bruce.
Okay. Is it coming through okay? For any of our listeners, do I sound worse now? I don't know why, but my headphones
you sound just normal. And I'm sending and I'm sending you my problems that I had just before the podcast when I inadvertently bent a plug wire on my
Okay.
microphone.
Well,
But
Group
no,
FBC says I sound fine, so I don't know why. It's not a battery issue, but they literally stopped working. So we're gonna go
yeah,
with
well
this
that's
setup from now on.
well that's why I got my old wired headphones here with all the
Lucky guy.
the
That
the, the
Bluetooth, you
crusty
can't
stuff
trust it.
kind of flaking off of there. I need some new headphones. Maybe I can find some nice quality headphones with the Toyota Century.
Exactly.
Surely that what a terrible segue that was. Surely there must be some optional thing where you can have special Bluetooth headphones to enjoy your ride in the back of the Century. Um, Bruce, what else we got here for Toyota? Because we're about to jump into a
So I'm
bunch
a
of
bit out of
concepts.
sorts at the moment since I just literally had that issue. But here, so let me hold on a second. I will
Well,
kill.
one thing I will say, I mean, jump over to motor1.com. Our article just went up today, and actually, if you are watching on YouTube, or if not, jump over to YouTube. We have all the vehicles that we're talking about here. We have links to all of our articles over at motor1.com. You can jump in right there, see everything that we're talking about. Toyota sent us we got almost 150 photos of the Century SUV. So anything you want to see, inside, outside, it's super luxury. We won't get it in North America. But because of the 25-year rule, we can now get the early second generation Century sedans, and that had the V12. And we actually just wrote an article on that today. And they're surprisingly, I was surprised to learn, not that expensive. You can, I mean, it's going to be more expensive than if you were just trying to buy one in Japan, but no, all things considered. And I believe that's the only Japanese V12 ever in anything. I mean, in a like a passenger car setting. Am I mistaken on that? I mean, I don't think there was ever a V12 offered in anything else.
I mean, the LFA is a V10, so you
Yep.
can knock that off. And other than, there might have been some race cars. Certainly, there was the V12 era of Formula One cars when Honda might have been there. I think even the Toyota Formula One car was a V10.
Yeah, but I'm talking about
no.
Yeah.
I'm just going through my little, automotive Rolodex in my head. Yeah, there are not that many Japanese V12s. There aren't. Just,
And we can buy one now in the States. Woohoo!
Yeah. You can
let's talk
import
about
one now into the States.
Well, import to buy. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
not just going to import and give it to me.
Sure.
So, all right, what else we got here? Let's jump over to some concepts. What do you say?
That sounds good.
More stuff that nobody can buy.
To vamp for me for just a second, because I think I know what my headphone issue is, and I think I have to go turn something off in the other room because my Bluetooth, it only allows 2 items at a time, and I think it's trying to connect to a third item, and it's just messing me all up. So I'm gonna ask you to vamp.
I feel your pain. I don't even have to vamp on this because this is a hilarious story. I feel your pain. And Ramblers, if you're out there listening, chime in if this has happened to you, because I have my phone paired Bluetooth to the pickup truck that my parents own because I spend a lot of time driving them around. So when I get into the truck, just pair my phone. So I'm here in my home office talking to, thankfully, not say the CEO of Aston Martin, just talking to somebody locally through my Bluetooth headset, because I do have a Bluetooth headset. I'm not completely 1980s tech here. And all of a sudden, the person I was talking to, it's like the connection was just lost. And I figured, okay, I must have lost my cell signal. Come to find out, my parents had been out driving themselves. And they pulled up to the house and got within range of my phone. And guess who they were talking to all of a sudden in their vehicle? No idea. So
I've had that, not in that embarrassing way, but I've had a version of that happen before. So
Yep, been there, done that. I'm just gonna go with the wired connection.
Yeah, I've got some very nice wired headphones, some very, very nice wired headphones, but sadly, Thank you, Apple. You do not allow me to connect whatever the big connector is here.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I won't get into it, but yeah. Oh,
And,
hey, my mom's talking. My mom's here. Hey, Smith, is the model of the week a 57 Plymouth?
No, that's Christine. which means yes.
Okay.
Or no, was Christine a 57 or 58 Plymouth Fury?
I think she's a 58.
58. So this is a 58. This is going to be a 58 Plymouth Fury. Yeah, buddy.
I think it's a 58. I'm looking it up right now.
That is Christine. I'm working on a movie car collection here. We've got obviously we've got the Dukes of Hazzard Charger, right? We've got Smokey and the Bandits Firebird. We got Christine. I need a good Back to the Future model. I need a good Ecto One model.
You do.
Yeah. I've got, and I'll feature some of these on the program here. I've got the Ferrari Testarossa from Miami Vice, in large scale, and I've got the small scale Daytona Spider that actually is getting rebuilt right now.
Yeah. You and I were talking about this, that you kind of have all of that collection from your father-in-law, which apparently is a lot of planes, but there's also a good number of cars in there as well. And we were talking about kind of doing a segment.
It's entirely cars, father-in-law. And then my father is a good mix of cars and aircraft. And then mine is cars and aircraft. So yeah, this place is quickly becoming a museum.
Okie doke.
And
yeah, I think we're gonna have to do a tour at some point. Some week that's like slow on news. There's gonna have to be the Chris Smith model tour.
We might have to do that. Give me a little bit, because this is still
we're not going to do it next week. You and I'll talk about it. We'll get there. But yeah.
Anyways, we're a little off kilter here. We are rambling. We're doing what we do best.
That.
What concept do you want to jump to next, Bruce? You're the boss. You're the head honcho.
Let's do the one that I like more. Let's do the Neue Klasse. Is that okay?
Can we just pronounce it New Class?
I guess if you want.
I'll call it
Neue Klasse. You can call it New Class.
I don't speak German like somebody that is a podcast co-host. Okay. I struggle to speak English sometimes.
Well,
but yes, this is BMW's concept, the Neue Klasse.
Neue Klasse. Yeah.
Neue Klasse.
It translates. You're absolutely right. It translates to new class. And that comes from in the early 1960s, I want to say 62, 63, BMW came out with their new shape of vehicles. If you look at BMW vehicles before that, they are very 1950s in a very American way. They're very like swoopy and whatever. Yep. And then BMW decided to go this very chiseled route, which essentially defined them from the early 60s to the 2000s.
I would say, yeah, the late 90s, early 2000s, really until the Bangle era.
Yeah, like Chris Bangle's the guy that got him away from that, and he did it gradually. So it's it lasted a while. Mm-hmm. And so this is their concept for their new electric vehicle. So we know there are two vehicles, and BMW is calling their electric vehicle concept, or electric vehicle platform, the Neue Klasse platform. We know that there's going to be an SUV on this platform, and we know that there's going to be a sedan on this platform. One would occupy roughly where the 3 Series is. One would occupy roughly where the X3 is. And this is kind of what they're showing us as what they say is a near production ready version of that sedan. And as you can see, it's radically different from what a 3 Series looks like today. It's vaguely, I was thinking about this before we got onto the show. I hate the term retro modern because it's sort of meaningless. But I also don't know a better word to call this. It is retro in a certain way. It's very like 1960s, 1970s brutalist, but also it still looks futuristic. And that's kind of where we are with this vehicle.
Well, it's interesting that you said that, because I had similar thoughts. But as I was looking at it, I was thinking, okay, And BMW even, I think, says specifically, sort of has that shark nose front. That's,
Yeah,
I mean, I start to see a little 6 Series in there, like a little E24 in
totally.
there from
Yep.
late 70s through the mid 80s, which is
I see
still
just like a
probably my
touch
favorite
of
BMW.
E21 BMW 3 Series, which is late 70s, very early 80s. Not,
Mhm.
E30 came later, but there's something a little bit retro about this, but not, it doesn't like scream about it. It's not like you could
Right.
say, oh, this evokes this model specifically. They're
Mhm.
kind of blending a lot of stuff together. And I like that in a way.
Well, when they first came out with the iVision D concept early this year,
I
which
hated
seemed
that
kind
car.
of, I did well, I don't know that hate is the right word,
You're right.
but I
Hate
was
is a
like,
strong
okay,
word. You're right.
okay, this, I mean, this is obviously a very different direction, and this is obviously an early concept. So when this comes out, okay, obviously it's based on that, and it's certainly pointing the direction in which they're going. And by the way, BMW says there will be something in production 2025. Obviously, this is a concept,
Yes.
but I do like that. This still feels off. This still feels like a concept, but I like the way they're going. Can we just pause for a moment and
We can.
consider how virtually exact opposite this is from BMW's current design language?
Oh,
From over
absolutely.
designing everything to just almost nothing. And it's
No, it's
shocking
not
in that
almost
respect.
nothing. It's
It I guess I'm used to seeing so many different contrasting angles and vents
yeah.
and scoops and things and everything on BMWs. And now I'm looking at this, and yeah, Bruce, I mean, look at those taillights. They're basically two rectangles sitting above a flat
The
rear
trapezoids, but
fascia.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, technically trapezoids, but
Yeah.
I don't see any contrasting angles.
No. I agree.
And
You know.
it's extraordinarily different. And I hope that they continue on this path. I hope they fine tune this. Give it. I think it needs just a little more. I'm gonna regret saying this. I think it needs a little more spice. It looks a little. It looks like they went maybe a little too far in the other direction now. Pull it back just a little bit, BMW, and I think you have it nailed for your future.
So here, let
And
me this is a
mhm,
perfect image right here. I think, and you feel free to disagree with me, but you can see there's this really sharp crease along the side here.
mhm.
I wonder if this is a vehicle that wouldn't look fantastic in a two-tone paint, where you have, maybe a silver color on the bottom and then maybe a more striking color on top. Silver and red, maybe silver and something. It feels to me like this is a vehicle that's screaming for a two-tone paint job.
That would be pure 80s if they did that. You
Okay.
know, the different color up top with something lower down, down towards the bottom. Um, I don't think BMW did it quite as much as other automakers did. Uh,
No, they
but
didn't.
but it, but it
That
but
wasn't.
it could fit. I see what you're saying. Um, and as I'm looking at that center crease now going down the doors, now I can't unsee it, and I want it to continue on to the front and rear fascias, and we don't really see it kind of
No,
continue that front fascia. It's just sloped back. But I do love the shark nose theme on
I
this.
agree. I love the shark
I
note
love
here. I'm
that
gonna
very,
go
very
back an
much.
image here. That's it, it's a touch that's kind of famous on the original BMW 6 Series, that shark nose, and you see it a little bit here, and it looks really good. Like,
I wouldn't identify it as a BMW though. And
true.
maybe that's something that we need to talk about. Um, do you go in such a direction where your car isn't recognizable as you anymore? Is it too far in this direction? Maybe that's what I'm meaning when I say they need to add a little bit of spice. Maybe what I'm saying is they need to add a little BMW, because when you look at the
That's an
fronts,
interesting point.
I mean, they're saying that, okay, the kind of the kidney grill motif up front. I mean, it's there, but unless somebody told me what it was, I wouldn't get that. So maybe
BMW
BMW just needs to add a little BMW to it yet.
BMW occasionally has done that before, though. Look at like the BMW Z1 or look at the BMW i3. Neither one of those vehicles, to me, you look at them and you don't think, oh, that's a BMW. So, maybe it's okay to go kind of outside of that realm every once in a while for something that's going to kind of break the mold. But yeah, but I see what you're saying. You're right. You look at this and it doesn't immediately say BMW. So yeah, maybe they do have to add a little bit more. I don't even know, just a little bit more of their design legacy, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, that could be. Or
Yeah.
maybe they can just add some painted stripes. They're painted, Bruce. They're painted.
I'm never going to live that down. Just because I wanted a $1 million Porsche with painted stripes, everybody thinks I'm a loser. But by God, it was a $1 million, it was an $800,000 Porsche with painted stripes. But anyway,
we never followed up. Did that sell?
I have to look. I have not seen that. I hope it did, because if it didn't sell, I'm going to feel even worse.
there would be some vindication there if it sold. There would be some vindication there if it sold. Group FBC says, now this has BMW all over it.
Oh, I think
Where?
we have a first-time commenter, Beehive's Honeyman, Automobile Spare Part Shop. I don't know what that means at all, but I think
welcome
you're
to
a
the
first-time
podcast.
Commenter.
That's
Thanks,
a proper ramble.
Beehive's Honey Shop.
That's a proper ramble.
That's a ramble, all right.
Yeah, Group FBC. Do you have some specific areas where you're seeing BMW written all over it? Just in profile. I mean, I guess when I look, when you think back to the 80s, and I think they're kind of pulling from the 70s and 80s a little bit here.
Yes.
I know. I remember just like big windows with smaller body panels. And I do get a little bit of that here. Like when you look at the side glass, I mean, think about how we got used to just really small side glass with, with this kind of high boy look along the sides. I do get a little bit of that here. And I mean, when you spin it around to the front, you see, okay, it's got the kidneys up there, or at least it evokes the kidneys. But I'm just not. I mean, like looking at it from the back, if somebody said, "Hey, what kind of car is that?" I would have no idea. Granted, it's a concept.
It is. I real quick, I do want to comment on our co-worker, now boss, Jeff Perez, who wrote up the story, or who was working on the story, and he was complaining, why does a person have to be every picture? Because he was trying to find a really good lead image for us. And in every image, the car is either partially obscured or there's a person in the image, and that was bothering him to no end. But yeah.
Well, Group FBC says the rear drive proportions, the Hofmeister kink overall stance. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't considering the kink, but now that you mention it, I can get that. I can get behind that. Astute observation from the Ramblers, as always.
Like I said, I hate the term retro modern because to me it's kind of sort of meaningless, but it does look like a car from the very late 70s or very early 80s that was interpreted for the modern age. And do you see what I'm saying there? That just like the angles and kind of the design language, there's a lot of that there in this vehicle. So it's curious.
Here's
Ted
a
Adam
question.
Green says it looks very BMW 2002 to me.
Okay, thinking back a little bit older, I'm getting that vibe too. Okay,
70s. That's
that's
as 70s as it gets practically for BMW.
Yeah. I'm wondering. We've seen the success that Hyundai has had with their concepts and kind of pulling from the 70s and the 80s.
Oh yeah.
Do you wonder if there might be some influence happening here? Um, I mean, depending on the production time, I mean, iVision D was the first example of this this uh, this new direction,
Hmm.
and that was earlier this year. I mean, if you have a
But
year
I
or
mean,
year and a
even
half of design work to
we've
go
talked
into a
about
concept.
the Hyundai Pony concept, which is as
Mhm.
retro as all hell. You look at the Ioniq 5, which is kind of that has that retro futuristic thing going, and that's been on the
It's
road
definitely more.
for 3
Yeah, I
years,
mean,
something like
it's
that.
definitely a more minimalistic approach to what we're seeing from other automakers.
Yeah,
I find it very interesting, that now we're seeing another automaker seemingly pulling from the 70s and the 80s. Does this mean we're gonna
yeah.
see a new Ford Thunderbird with a 20-foot hood? I hope so.
Smith, shouldn't you? Smith, I know you, buddy. Why are you not referencing the Mustang 2? This is your chance.
Because
This is your
nobody
chance.
wants the Mustang 2 back. Nobody wants the Mustang
Well,
2 back. But
no,
Thunderbird fits in an electric world. And
we've
let's
talked about
put
this before.
let's put the battery pack and two motors all up front. 90% of the weight on the front wheels. Actually, that shouldn't be a Thunderbird. That should be an Oldsmobile Tornado. But now we're rambling away again. Now we're off the topic. Group
Group
FBC.
FBC says part of it may be manufacturers reacting to consumers potentially pushing back at the overstyling we've seen lately. Yeah, maybe we've it's that Bell thing that things go to like overstyling over just everything to minimalism, and then people get tired of minimalism and it goes back the other way, and it's been like that literally forever. You know.
Well, and I'm not going to continue to beat that horse. If you're a regular listener to Rambling About Cars, you know how I feel about BMW styling, and I think there are a lot of people that feel the same way because boy, do we see comments on social and on our just about every BMW article that goes up. So here's the Neue Klasse.
Mhm.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes with
Yep.
BMW.
New class.
Next concept. How about we go to, well, pick what you want to do next, Bruce.
Let's do the GTI. Is that okay?
Yeah, we can do GTI.
Great. Here, let me
Um,
pull it up. Vamp for me for just a hot second while I get that.
very simple. If you recall earlier in the year, you had Volkswagen that debuted their little hatchback called the ID2 All. I'm not going to say the dot in there because I think it's ridiculous. So I'm just going to say the
No one should say
ID2
no.
All.
You're not supposed to.
Um,
Don't say that.
Now we have the ID GTI concept, which Volkswagen says, yeah, we were thinking about this when we were doing the ID2 All. This is basically analogous to Volkswagen Golf GTI, right? ID2
Yeah,
All.
it looks like
This
a
is
modern
the GTI.
GTI.
It
Like,
is basically the ID2 All, with more blackouts, some red stripes, and GTI graphics. Now they
yeah,
do, and by they Volkswagen says this is going into production. This is obviously a concept, so the production vehicle. I mean, it's going to vary. Although they do say the interior is near production. And what does that mean? That's a 10.9-inch driver display, a 12.9-inch center display.
like,
Whether the exterior is close to production, we still don't know.
yeah.
There are a lot of details that we don't have, you know, like horsepower, range, things like that. I have the impression that this is just like a mock-up mock-up concept because we actually didn't get any specific images of the interior. We just had various sketches and renderings. And when you look at the
Yeah.
exterior, the windows are all blacked out. So I think this is just kind of just a bare mock-up. But
But here's the thing. It points to the GTI name has existed since what, 83? So it's
it's back in the
almost
70s.
40 years old. Is it?
Wasn't the first GTI what 76 I think or 77 around there.
I thought it was later than that, but you could be right. Anyway,
It's a
it's
yeah.
a
I mean
decades long moniker for
it's
Volkswagen for the
storied
Golf.
for sure.
Like it is kind of the definitive hot hatch, and it always has been. It's like, it is the definition of the hot hatch.
Mhm.
And this clearly shows Volkswagen's going to make an electric version of it eventually. Like,
Mhm.
they're
And I
showing it
mean,
off
yeah,
here.
it looks cool. They try to pull a lot of retro cues. I mean, they say the interior would have the plaid layouts, the digital gauges. It all is customizable. So if you want to have your gauge cluster look like a Mark II GTI, you can set it up to look like a Mark II GTI.
Mhm.
Um, one thing that
Which
I
is
found
interesting because
interesting.
wait, let me go real quick.
Go
It's just
ahead. Go ahead.
interesting because didn't we just see that from the new Mustang where you can set
Yep.
the Mustang instrument cluster up to look like a Fox body? It's
Yep.
interesting that automakers are going back to the past in that way and allowing, I guess, us old guys, for lack of a better word, that, oh, you can have your fully modern digital instrument cluster and it'll look fully modern and that's fine. Oh, but if you want it to look like it did in the 1980s, yeah, we can do that too. It literally takes a press
I
of a
mean,
button and it just switches
yeah.
over.
It's like, why not? Why not offer that level of customization? To me, it's a no-brainer. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of it before now. That's a feature coming to the GTI. Like I said, no information on powertrain, at least regarding horsepower,
Right.
battery range, things like that. But Volkswagen did talk about this being front wheel drive only, front motor, front wheel drive. They talked about it having just a neat locking differential so you can really make use of the power. They talked about having a plethora of drive line customization, not just with how your instrument cluster looks, but dialing in your suspension settings, your steering. One of the neat things they talked about was plugging in simulated shift points and
Oh,
and not just simulated shift points, but plugging in simulated shift points from various GTIs through the
yep.
years, through the decades. So if you want, and I can't remember what all the various red lines are through all the GTI generations, but
Yeah,
if
that's
if you
beyond
if
me.
you want to simulate like an 8,000 RPM shift, I mean, from one generation, or a 6,500 RPM shift from the next, or trying to remember my Mark II. I think my Mark II red line somewhere around like 68 or
7?
seven, somewhere
68 or
around
7?
there.
Yeah, I believe that.
You can plug that, you can plug all of that in. So and then you can also dial in different engine noises coming through the sound
Here.
system. So if you want a specific sound, if you want the VR6 sound, you can get the VR6 sound.
Oh,
If
that's a
if
good
if you
sound.
want the four-cylinder sound, you can get the four-cylinder sound. You can plug all of these customizations in to have a proper retro experience in your brand new electric GTI. So
Mhm.
I think I think that's a neat idea. When you have the
I
capability to do this, as you were saying, Bruce, it's the push of a button. I mean, this is all computerized. It's the push of a button.
Yeah,
Why not offer that? Why not plug it in?
exact yeah, the costs end up being negligible to design what it looks like.
Mhm.
That, it's yeah, obviously there has to be a designer out there who goes in and does it. I'm not discounting that. That has value and that's important. But when you take into account the entire vehicle, you're not engineering all different pieces, like physical pieces, to make it look like a different appearance. It's
Mhm.
literally just digitally, I want it to make it look like this. I don't want to make it look like this today. I want to make it look like that today. And
And I
you
would
just,
totally do that because
oh, I would
because
too.
because I'm like level 60 ADD. I don't even know what that is, but I'm level 60,
Don't-
right?
Okay.
And I would constantly be changing it up. Let's go with let's pretend that my transmission shifts at 8,500 RPM what does that sound like? Well, yeah, that would it would make it fun. I mean, wouldn't it make it fun? People are talking about electric vehicles being soulless and all that. Okay, so it's not an actual engine making sound, but do you love the sound? Does it matter quite as much where it comes from? You know,
Group at FBC just made the same point I was thinking, which is I'm fascinated by random green t-shirt guy in the photos. You know what, buddy? Me too. Because he looks like he time traveled out of 1999. Like that. I know that guy. He existed in 1999, and I don't know why he's in these photos.
You were just talking about senior editor, actually managing editor now, because he got a promotion. Congratulations, Mr. Jeff Perez. Complaining about trying to find a good BMW photo without a person in it. I had a similar issue setting this article up, finding a good lead image.
I don't know
without
look at him.
I mean, he's Shaggy, right, from Scooby-Doo.
Oh, he's Shaggy, all right.
I mean, the green shirt. It's like I can almost hear him saying "Zoinks!" So
yeah.
I mean, I had a similar issue trying to find a good lead photo that was an actual photo of the vehicle and not not a rendering. I wanted to try to find something.
I don't know who that man is, but I guess Volkswagen hired him to pose with their concept. That's all I got.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's all I got too. Like I said, there wasn't any information on power or things of that nature.
Right, we know.
But the production version is supposed to be debuting in 2026, so two and a half years. Blink and it'll be here.
Stick with the concept and then do production model. So should we do?
Yeah, let's
Mercedes and then the production Mercedes. Is that good for you?
Let's do the concept and then we'll see what we have for time and finish up with the car that people can actually buy.
Deal.
And in a lot of places too. So let's start with the Mercedes that you can't buy. Yeah.
Right.
Let's start with the Mercedes that you can't buy, and that's the Concept CLA-Class. And we've seen this coming for a little while now. Now we have the full debut. Similar to Volkswagen, we don't have all specifics when it comes to powertrain, when it comes to battery.
We have no specifics, buddy.
Well, Volkswagen did tell us that they're shooting for, I think, a power consumption of 5.2 miles per kilowatt hour. So if you do some basic math that senior editor Brett Evans did, and I'm not going to try to replicate it because I do not do math thinking about it. Never mind on demand on a live podcast. He came up with a figure of 89.6 kilowatt hours for the battery. But that's just our completely unofficial calculations trying to suss out what might be happening.
Back of a matchbook math, like that we don't know. That's what he calculated out, but we don't know.
Mm-hmm. And we can also say Mercedes has said that this is inspired heavily by the EQXX. And we do know the EQXX had a single motor driving the rear wheels with 201 horsepower. And that car also weighed 30. I gotta look at my notes. 3,800 pounds. I almost remember.
I don't remember, but okay, good.
Which
good on you, because I don't remember that number.
That's fairly light for
an EV. It is
for an EV that can seat like more than one or two people. Those are EQXX figures. Mercedes has said that the Concept CLA-Class borrows heavily from the EQXX. Of course, it's got that big old super screen inside that has it incorporates the driver display, the center display, passenger display. What else we got here, Bruce? What do you got in your notes?
Well, so they have used a bunch of recycled or what's the right word for it? Recycled materials, or I'll just read the bit to you because I can't think of the good word for it.
The Napa leather tanned by.
Yes, the Napa leather was tanned with coffee husks which is an otherwise unusable piece. A lot of the plastics come from PET drinking bottles. There are strips of lab-grown silk. The floor mats are bamboo. The satin door pulls and armrests are made from recycled paper. So yeah, just a lot of recycled, or I guess reclaimed is the word that I should have thought of a second ago because I'm an idiot. But yeah, recycled, reclaimed materials throughout the cabin of this vehicle.
Yep. And Group FBC, you're beating us to the punch here. We're going to talk about here in a minute. This, of course, is using the Mercedes modular architecture. This is the first vehicle based on that architecture. It is an 800-volt system, as you have pointed out here. That is pretty big news. Mercedes does also estimate that this will have a 466-mile range in the WLTP cycle. Of course, these are all just estimates. A lot can happen before production. This is a concept. Mercedes says that series production should begin in late 2024, though, so it's not going to be that far around the corner. Can we talk for a minute, Bruce, about the styling? Because
of course,
it's different from an EQ, right?
Yes and no. I mean, EQ models, the thing about the EQ models is that they're so smooth. They look like a bar of soap going down the road. And there's a lot of that about this vehicle. But you're right, that the devil is in the details, and this is not identical to what we've seen from the EQ models.
And I noticed right away, because I'm actually a fan of the EQ models. I'm a fan of, okay, if you don't have to have a big old combustion engine up front with a radiator and all of that stuff, why do you need the big extra front? So I think a hallmark of Mercedes, what they're doing with their EQ cars, you do have that much shorter overhang up front. To me, I mean that's a smart design. You're utilizing the benefits of having an electric powertrain. And unfortunately, I know I'm in the minority on liking that EQ style. The majority of commenters I've seen, and I think even just in our own Motor One team, most people aren't particularly fond of that styling direction. And I'm wondering if that's something on the minds of Mercedes designers here, because this looks a little more conventional. This looks a little bit more like a conventional vehicle.
Especially up front.
It does have a bit longer. Yep.
Yeah. It does have a front overhang, which again, like you're saying, is weird because it doesn't have to have one. That, with electric motors and stuff like that and batteries, you could theoretically put an electric motor between the front wheels. You could have batteries underneath the passenger compartment. And so you could shrink that front overhang considerably because, other than for like some safety considerations and things like that, it doesn't really need to be there. Whereas when you're looking at this vehicle specifically, it is there. And so they've kind of, they've made it look much more like a conventional car. You could fool someone and say, oh, this has a combustion engine under the hood, but it doesn't.
Yeah, just an astute observation there. Group FBC is once again coming in here saying, I just wish there were more Mercedes-Benz badges on it. 4 on each end just isn't enough. Of course, that's a reference to little Mercedes symbols being everywhere on it.
But it's a concept. But so
it's a concept.
They have to show it off. Like if you are at the IAA Mobility show in Munich, and you walk up to this, you can't have to wonder, oh, what type of vehicle this is. Or if you take a photo of it and put it online, people have to know immediately this is a Mercedes. So
but they didn't need to. They didn't need to put little stars basically making up the entire grill. I mean, if you do a Pan Americana grill, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's going to know that.
I'm not going to fight there.
But yeah, you're right. It's a concept. They're trying to show what they can do. Whether it makes it to production that way, we shall see in late 2024 if everything stays on schedule.
Yep.
And from the concept Mercedes that you can't buy, let's talk about the one that you can, Bruce.
Let's do that. I wrote up this story. This
Yeah.
is the Mercedes-Benz E-Class all-terrain, and it is coming to the United States. And this will be the only E-Class wagon that you will be able to get in the United States, in fact. Um, and as the all-terrain moniker states, it is an I'm going to call it a light off-roader. You could take this on gravel. You could take this in very, very, very very light mud. You could take it on grass. It's not like a true. You're not gonna take this on a real big off-road trail or something.
Yeah, I mean they say all terrain. I mean, honestly, if you put a set of decent, all terrain tires, not like the crazy mud trains or anything, but like the Falcons I have on my Subaru, I mean, it would probably go okay in tougher environments. You don't really gain much ground clearance though. It does sit a little bit higher, if I'm
Yeah,
not
it's
mistaken.
just shy of it's like 6/10 of an inch. So it's not a
Which,
lot.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like much, but when you're talking about clearance off road, I mean that is notable, over the regular sedan. But yeah, that means no, you're not going to take this down two tracks, or
No,
or
no,
or
no, no,
or,
no, no, no.
or if you do, you better be damn careful. Because I'm saying this while I'm thinking back to when I was in high school, taking my Ford Taurus places that it should not have gone. And how
But
much easier it would have been if I had an extra half inch of ground clearance and all-wheel drive. But yeah,
that's right.
to your point, Mercedes E-Class all-terrain. The point is, it sits a little bit higher. You do have the all-wheel drive.
And
You get
but it also
the
comes
little
standard.
fender. You get the
Well,
little
yes, you get
the plastic trim around the fenders that helps protect it a little bit. I guess
you get
makes
the
it a
fender
little
flare,
more rugged.
but also it comes standard with an air suspension on all four corners, and that is fully adaptive. It also has fully adaptive dampers. So, what Mercedes says is that no matter how much you load this vehicle down, it is going to try to maintain the ride height so that it doesn't change. It has an off-road setting where the driver information screen and also the infotainment screen shows you things like the body angle indicator, so up, down, left, right, stuff like that. It shows you your latitude and your longitude. It shows you your tire pressures. It shows you things. They've added some things to add to make it a little bit more rugged. And the other thing you have to understand is the regular E-Class wagon is not coming to the United States. If you want an E-Class wagon in the US, this is your choice. For any of our European listeners, yeah, you could have a wagon or you could have the all-terrain. That's a choice that they have. But in the US, it's this or nothing.
And I mean, it makes sense because SUVs are so popular here.
Yeah.
Wagons are still not really popular at all. So this presents an option that Mercedes feels is good enough to bring it over to North America. You know, the E-Class was refreshed earlier this year, and we talked about it here on the
Oh, got a whole
podcast.
new generation earlier
The
this year.
the styling. Oh, that's right. Okay, it is a whole new generation. My apologies there. Um, has the styling has your opinion changed on the styling at all? Because when this came out, people just trashed it, especially up front for trying to look like an EQ, even though it was still a combustion powered vehicle, just with the with the extra black going in there. And as I'm looking at it, I mean, I think I was among the minority that thought, "Hey, this looks pretty good." As I'm looking at it now with, in the all-terrain format here, I'd like it even more.
Yeah, I would have to go back and listen to my thoughts, but I'm pretty sure that I never cared that it looked like an EQ or an E-Class or whatever. I think they're both attractive vehicles, and I think this is an attractive vehicle. And I think the thing is if you want an E-Class wagon and you are an American, that this is your choice. You get, let me give you it's 21 some odd. So it holds 21.7 cubic feet of cargo in the back versus 19 cubic feet with the sedan. And if you put the rear seats down, that increases to 64.6 cubic feet. So, you can haul stuff in this. It's got the nice suspension. You can only get it with all-wheel drive. You can only get it with the air suspension. It's just, it seems like a pretty nice setup if this is the type of vehicle that you want. We do not have pricing for this yet. It will go on sale in early 2024 in the United States. Again, if you want an E-Class wagon in the US, this is what you have to get. And, I'm a wagon guy. I love a good wagon. I think this is a compelling vehicle, especially in its class. There are some downsides to it. Calling it the all-terrain, if I'm being fair, is kind of feels like a misnomer. You can't take
it's a little gimmicky.
It's a little gimmicky. It's, you could go on it's a soft roader, as I remember calling vehicles when I was writing about them in the past.
But I mean, how many crossovers and SUVs are the same way, though?
That's true.
I mean, realistically, like my Forester. I mean, it's probably no more or less capable than this, other than I have a lot less horsepower than the Mercedes has here.
And thank you for reminding. So it is the mild hybrid.
We didn't mention that, did we?
No, we didn't. You reminded me. It's the mild hybrid turbocharged 3-liter inline six that makes 375 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. And with the boost system that it has, it can give you an extra 23 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque for very limited times.
That's more than double than what I have. 0 to 60, and that's 4.6 seconds. That's right. The E450 mild hybrid. So 0 to 60 in 4.6 in an E-Class wagon, that's still fast. That's still fast. And you have a little bit better. You have a little bit better capability to get down.
I mean, Spitz, you and I were talking about quick cars, and you and I kind of agreed last week that anything sub 6 was quick. And if this is doing 0 to 60 in 4.6, yeah, that's quick.
Yeah. That's it's plenty quick. I mean, it's not going to be, suck the wind out of your diaphragm sick.
No, but should a Mercedes wagon do that? That's not really the point?
Yes, it should.
Okay.
What do you think, ramblers out there? Email us, podcast@motor1.com. It's 4.6 seconds, 0 to 60 in a Mercedes non-AMG all-terrain E-Class wagon. Quick, I think so. And also, while you're at it, tell us what you think about how it looks. Tell us what you think about everything that we talked about here today. Podcast@motor1.com. We love getting the emails. We love hearing from you.
We do.
What else we got, Bruce? We've got. I feel like we got a little bit of time.
We do have a little bit of time, but those are all the topics we prepared. But I'm happy, dude, I'll talk cars with you all night and all day. So is there something you want to talk about?
We do have another stealth camper that we wrote about here just a few days ago.
The Fuso?
And the one we did prior to that, just everybody loved it on Traffic. And the new one did pretty well. So do you want to talk just a little bit more camper talk here as we wrap out this week's podcast? Well, I'll tell you what, let me bring it up here. If you can just vamp for me for a second. This is a Mitsubishi Fuso.
Yep. Which,
you've already
for anyone who doesn't know,
wow.
Yeah. If anyone here has never moved houses or moved things, you've seen a Mitsubishi Fuso. That's what they do.
It's a box truck. I mean, last week we were talking about, last week we were talking about the Isuzu, which was also a box truck designed to be a stealth camper. And for those who aren't really sure what the hell we're talking about, stealth camping, right? There are actually two camps here. One camp is just like the person with a tent in their backpack, and they try to camp at like the 3 or 4 trees that are behind Home Depot and hope
Yeah.
nobody sees them. That's stealth camping number one. Stealth camping number two, vehicles that don't look like campers. And when you're talking about a Mitsubishi Fuso, little cab over work van with just a big white box on the back, no, that doesn't look like your big Winnebago or something. But when you look inside of this thing,
And we should real quick, we should say so Walmart, famously, Meyer, also another kind of very similar store, they allow trucks and kind of vans like this to park in their very, very large parking lots overnight. It's kind of a very accepted thing, or I don't know if it's
a
a
lot of
general
places
understanding or
a
what
lot
how
of
it
places
works.
don't though. As I've been learning and just doing some more research into this field, especially like in resort towns, places like that. If you're not in
Yeah,
a campground, if you're just pulling in somewhere, it can get a little hairy sometimes. But
which is
this
why
Mitsubishi
a
Fuso,
stealth camper like this works, where you
uh-huh,
just look like some dude in a box truck.
right.
And you look
But
inside this vehicle.
inside this box truck is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's got everything. It's got a nice big stove with an oven. It's an L-shaped kitchen with one of the prettiest countertops I've ever seen in a custom built van. It's just a nice wood countertop with a nice deep finish. They have a big stand-up shower. It's got the full bathroom in there. It has a bed that telescopes down from the ceiling and then it telescopes up for your nice living area. It's all self-contained, meaning that there is no access to the cab. It's all back there in that box. And actually,
Yep.
the people that built this starter life has a dump truck.
Oh, really?
They
Okay.
they
I've
bought it.
seen them
They
as dump
bought it
trucks.
has a
Yeah.
dump truck, and they picked it up at auction for $7,500, and it's a 4-wheel drive Fuso too. So
Mhm.
technically, if you want to do a little bit of overlanding, I mean this can probably get you at
Or
least
not
a
even
little ways down the
overlanding
trail.
necessarily. You think about places like, northern Arizona, Wyoming, places like that that get some snow where that
Yep,
extra traction, even if you're on the highway, might be helpful. It does
absolutely.
four-wheel drive isn't necessarily about off-roading, but if you're someplace out west or up north or something like that where just, having that little bit of extra traction helps, it's
Yep.
gonna come in handy.
And the interior is beautiful. They have actually a very large living space because they have the bed that telescopes up and then powers down. That L-shaped kitchen though, just I I just want to just cook in there forever. I enjoy
Mhm.
cooking. That looks, I mean, you see so many vans where there's just not a lot of space in the kitchen. They have a lot of space in there. One of the interesting features I love about this too that I haven't seen before, Bruce, we've been covering custom built vans, camper vans, RVs
For
like this for
years.
years now.
Yeah.
This has a 60-40 split rear door, meaning that and it's not side to side, it's up and down. So the
I have
split,
not
you have
you're
the
right,
top
I've not
half
seen that.
that lifts up, that's works sort of like an awning, and then the bottom half folds down to give you an extra little, basically like a porch space or a deck space right off the back. And just a phenomenal build. They bought this at an auction for $7,500. Had to do some repair work. Obviously, they had
Sure.
to build it up into the van. They have $37,000 into this.
That's pretty cheap. I mean,
I
that's
I think for a 4-wheel drive, fairly sizable vehicle that's still small enough to be driven around in a town, 37,000, you wouldn't buy just a much smaller van.
no,
A new van for that much.
no. You couldn't buy
So
a new Sprinter, like, 170,
nope.
you know, wheelbase for 37.
So yeah, just I'm keeping an eye out now for more of these. One, because our Motor One audience seems to love them, and I tell you what, Bruce, I've long thought about picking up like a Ford or like one of the older Chevys or even like one of the Dodge Maxi vans and doing just a little fun camper build. Not something to live in full time, but just something
Sure.
really inexpensive that if I wanted to run away for a weekend, just jump into the van and go. These box trucks are giving me all kinds of new ideas, and I'd never really considered it before. And yeah, I mean, if you can
Yeah.
find some of these relatively inexpensively, good build all
Yeah, I mean, the
around.
thing is, they're not fast, but they're made to be driven. Like, they're commercial vehicles. Like,
Yeah.
literally, they're made to be driven around. Hell,
Mhm.
I've had jobs when I was a kid with, box truck vans. Not a kid in college, I should say. Um, but yeah, like it seems like a good way to convert a vehicle. Um, I don't know about the shower being directly next to the oven, only because I can just imagine like me in the shower and my wife cooking breakfast or vice versa and just being like, "Hey honey, you want some eggs?" and just like poking it through the shower curtain or something like
No,
that.
see, that makes total sense for me because when I set something on fire, and
That's
I
true.
always set something on fire, I'm right there to put it out.
That's true.
Right there to put it out. Right there to put it out.
Okay. But yeah, yeah, I think that's does us. Am I wrong? Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I've got nothing coming up. Just a reminder, everybody. Next week, stay tuned. We might have something special going on with the Detroit Auto Show. I know I'm headed down to Detroit on Friday to do some media stuff with Ford, so I'll be
What
able
is
to
that?
tell
About a
everybody
2.5 hour drive?
about 2.5, 2:45, depending on traffic. Not a bad drive at all. I
Yeah.
thought I was going to take the Subaru, but schedule changes means I'm taking the Mustang, so my earplugs are going with me. It's
Okie
good to
dokie.
drive around local. It's gonna drone a little bit when I get on the highway, especially when I get
It
down to
will.
lower speeds. So, do a little bit of a road trip in the Mustang, and yeah, tune in next Friday or tune in next Wednesday. Sees what we have special going on. Detroit Auto Show is coming up. We know there are some pretty significant debuts happening. We can't necessarily talk about all of them yet. And of course, catch us Motor One Com Facebook, Motor One Com Twitter, Motor One on YouTube. Audio version of the podcast goes up every Friday. You get it through Spotify, Apple,
Do not say
Amazon,
Deezer. You do not
iHeart,
say Deezer.
I iHeart Radio.
Don't say it.
The
Don't say it.
these are
Yeah, I knew you were. Yeah,
had to get it in there. But no, thanks for
I
listening,
know.
everybody. And email us, podcast@motor1.com. Tell us
Yep.
what you think about everything that we talked about here today. Tell us about your cool, crazy car project. Talk to us about anything car related. Don't send us images of like your pottery collection.
We've never received that. If
Not
someone
not
sent me pictures of their pottery collection, I would at least look at it.
not
I'm not saying
not
it's going to be on the
necessarily
show.
automotive
I've never.
related. So pottery collection, not so much.
No.
Your cool license
My
plate
God, if
collection,
you
we can
collect
get behind
pottery,
that.
you send it to me. I want to see your pots, your plates, your sugar bowls, what have you. If you got it, you send it to me. But anyway, also the other thing I was going to say here real quick is so we are at September 6th right now. For anyone out there, I love watching horror movies. I love watching movies in general. Like I kind of try to watch a movie at evening, just kind of depending on things. But I would really like to do an automotive themed scary movie show at some point. And Smith and we've talked. Smith, I know, loves The Wraith. Yes. Christine, like there are so many good ones. But if anyone out there, if there are any ones you don't think I've heard of, or if they're ones I don't care, throw them out there, send them to me. Podcast at motor1.com.
Automotive themed horror movies.
Yeah, or not, or supernatural, because The Wraith is not a horror movie, but it's supernatural. It's got about a ghost, so kind of, sort of. But yeah, throw them out there to me. And, I would love to kind of make a maybe Smith and I could make an automotive themed scary movie, Halloween movie playlist of,
Ooh,
stuff to watch. I
that could
think
be
that would
fun.
kind of be fun. We'll see where it goes. I'm just throwing it out there. If no one responds, hey, no one responds. That's fine. But just something to think about.
Respond.
But yeah,
Respond. We want to hear back on this. We want to hear back.
yeah, like Christine is so
Classic.
good. Or
It really is.
the one I've never seen is I think it's called The Car. It's just called The Car, and it's about, a scary car. Or Duel. I watch Duel so often. In fact, I scared my mother-in-law. I'm like, let's watch Duel. And she watched it with me, and she got scared and went to bed. Keep in mind, this is a woman in her early 70s. Like, she couldn't stand Duel, which has like no gore, no
I
nothing.
wish I could find Blood Drive that they ran on Sci-Fi for one season. I don't know if that came out on a
You
like
mentioned
a
that,
DVD
and I
or
cannot
Blu-ray
find it
release or
anywhere.
not. I mean, it's not really horror as much as it's just like classic kind of grindhouse. I
Sure.
mean, it's cars that run on humans in this weirdo race. But
And I know we have talked about this before,
I love
and
this show so
unfortunately,
much.
I think you might be the last person with a memory of this show, unfortunately. But
I could
hey,
be.
if someone has a link to Blood Drive and can send it to me, send it my way because I want to see it.
You can find little snippets on YouTube, but no full episodes. But there are little snippets on YouTube that I know pop up from time to time.
Groove to FBC says, can we include horrifically bad car movies like Driven? Driven is a movie I watched with my dad. That's the Sylvester Stallone IndyCar movie. Oh my God, is it bad?
Now, are we talking, but let's clarify here. Are we talking bad movies that were intended to just be bad? Or are we talking good movies
Sylvester
that
Stallone
were
thought
like
it was going to be
terrible?
good, and it wasn't. No, it's. But I think now it's been probably I don't remember what year it came out. It's probably been 20 years since I've seen it. I would rewatch it now just to see if it's as bad as I remember, but it was bad. Anyway,
I watched Smokey and the Bandit 3 like earlier in the summer, and I loved it as a kid. I loved it as a kid, and no, it's horrifically bad.
Okay.
I mean, Smokey and the Bandit 2 was getting the great movie, classic. 2, okay, they're starting to stretch it here a little bit. 3 was just no.
Okay.
We got lots of lists, lots of stuff to cover.
Cannonball Run 2. Don't you keep trying to make me watch Cannonball Run 2? Not Cannonball Run, the second one?
I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Cannonball Run 2. I mean, it's an all right movie. I loved that I think it was Frank Sinatra was driving a Dodge Daytona Turbo Z in that movie. I love that.
Okay.
It's like Frank Sinatra in a Daytona Turbo Z and he's passing a Corvette. Okay, this is kind of crazy, but I'm down for it. I think I've been trying to get you to watch Speed Zone, which is I think supposed to be like a Cannonball Run 3.
Yeah.
There's like some loose tie-ins. That's a properly bad car movie. But they intended it to be bad. I think that was the point. The Smothers Brothers were in it. You knew it wasn't going to be top shelf material here, right?
Okay. But yeah, just so I love to watch these types of movies in October. I think since you're my boss, and I think I could probably convince Seth and Jeff to do a list of like interesting car movies for this time of year, just as a one-off listicle. But it's something to think about. But if any of you folks out there, give me your recommendations. Give us your recommendations. Again, podcast@motor1.com. Is Speed Zone the one with the car? Is that? I don't know. Is
Group
that a thing?
FBC, is Speed Zone the one with the car skipping across the water? Yes.
Okay.
Opening scene. It's a Lamborghini Countach, and I promise you it's not a real Lamborghini Countach. And as I've watched it back, now that I know more about the Countach, I absolutely know it's not a real Lamborghini Countach.
Okay.
And John Snyder from Dukes of Hazzard fame is actually driving that in the beginning.
Okay. Oh, wait, Moon Runners. I don't even know. You guys, I'm already loving you guys. These are movies I need to see. I don't even know what Moon Runners is. Apparently, it's the basis for the Dukes of Hazzard. Okay. Hey, I'll watch it some
That's
night
news
if
to
I
me.
can find it somewhere.
We'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
The list has already started.
It sure has. Speed Zone and Moon Runners. Maybe they're just horrifically bad, but maybe there's something. But anyway, let's close the show out for tonight. As always, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. Thank you so much for listening to the show. It's always appreciated. We love getting all your comments, especially since we've gone live. It is so much fun to interact with you folks, and it is so much time just to spend time with you. Like, it's, I have loved cars for a very long time. Smith, I know the same is true with you. And it's just the fact that we get to talk about cars and get to geek out about stuff. We get to share automotive news. And then we also get to interact with these fantastic people. So it's good all the way around. I look forward to this show every single week. And I can't see that changing anytime in the future. So thank you so much, everybody. And with that, we will call it a night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.